Alrighty, folks, welcome back. Today is day 8, and yesterday we made some bold moves and started to carve away some of that busyness in the background, and it still looks busy, but I have some thoughts on that this morning. I was also sitting with it, and I think I see the orientation I want to take it in, which is the one that's facing me. So let me turn it around for you. This is the orientation that I want to work on, where this is the bottom and this is the top. And here's what I'm loving about it so far. I'm just amazed. Every time I look at this piece, I just see hearts everywhere. There's a heart right here. This kind of looks like a heart. These heart shapes showed up just randomly as I was putting the paint on yesterday. You saw me make that one. This looks like a figure to me almost. I could play that up a little bit. And yeah, so there's just a lot of love going on in this piece. It's not finished by any stretch, but it's only day 8 of 21. So we've got lots of opportunity to continue to evolve it. And you know what? If at the end of 21 days, I go, this is where I landed, here were my takeaways and my learnings, and I want to keep taking it forward, that's okay too. This is just a learning experience, a painting challenge. The challenge being, you know, focusing for 5 minutes at a time. I think the intention behind it was to keep you loose, to keep you out of your head, which in some ways has been the opposite for me because I think more about it. When I'm working, typically, and I don't have this sort of time constraint in the back of my mind, I just go, go, go. And it's a little more fluid. This, I'm finding it's been a little bit more intentional because I'm aware of that 5-minute constraint. So sometimes people say constraint breeds creativity and innovation. Jury's still out on that one. Maybe, maybe not. I do think in some cases that's true. So I don't know, we'll see. But this is the direction I think the piece is going right now. Looking at what I like and what I don't like about it, the focal point per se, not every painting has to have a focal point. What you want is to draw the viewer through, right? And to have places for the eye to rest, places for the eye to go, and things that can do that for you are contrast, motion, that sort of a thing. And so that's what I'm thinking about right now. And I'm also starting to think more and more about composition. So if I look at this, I've got 1, 2, 3, I'll count this as 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 if I fudge this, but I may end up covering that. 8 shapes that are fairly recognizable. And typically, people say that odd numbers are more pleasing to the eye. So I may or may not take out one of these shapes, still undecided. I'm thinking about taking this one out, partly because I don't know that it really adds much, but I do like that this repetition of gold kind of brings you the eye upward this way. Now, there's nothing to say that I couldn't add some gold in here. And in fact, this light part in here, I may want to glaze over. So I'll decide that as I keep working on the background. That's really what I'm focusing on right now. And I can always take one of these shapes out later. And you know what? I'm the frickin' artist. If I decide I want 8 shapes in my painting, guess what? There's going to be 8 shapes in my painting. So as an artist for yourself, that's my advice to you. Yes, there are guidelines, but you know what? They're just guidelines. It's your art. You decide what works and what doesn't. If an even number works for you, then go for it. Who the frick cares, right? So yeah, so that's where my head is right now. Lots and lots of texture in here. This section right here in particular, you can tell where I didn't mix the that paint very well, which I'm not mad at. I'm going to go over another layer. I'm sitting with, there's so much texture on there. I don't know if you can see. I don't know if I like that or not. It's very bumpy. And so visually, I know I'm going to go over this with another layer, so I'm going to reserve my decision. I could technically try and sand this back a little bit. You can sand acrylic. I haven't really done it. I know it's possible, but I haven't done it. If this were an oil and cold wax piece or encaustic, I might carve into this a little bit to scale it back, but it's not. So I might go with it because, again, if we go back to this concept of being seen and looking through these lenses that cloud our vision, sometimes those lenses are hurtful, like the spikes on this painting. If I run my hand over it, of course, I'm not going to cut myself or anything. It's not like that, but you feel it. It's rough, right? So there's an element of that conceptually that really speaks to me that I may keep in there. And again, you know, this is the great thing about acrylic. If I change my mind tomorrow, I can go in and sand it off. We're only day 8, so there's that. And this is my palette clean off page, the one I've been working on. It's evolving. I know what this is now, and this looks really crazy town, but you can see with that gel, that heavy gel, how much texture is in there. I carved into this a little bit, and you can just kind of see that. But yeah, so I'm going to have to grab a new palette clean off page because this is now going to turn into a painting too. I know where that's going. There's a part of me that's like, oh, I wish I would have used regular gel instead of the heavy gel, which isn't quite as thick, or just paint. In fact, I've got some mixed up here I need to spritz. Just the heavy body paint might have been, which is the same texture as the regular gel, might have been enough. So I'm going to put another layer over this today. And in looking at it, what I want to do is 2 things. I want to quiet this down a little bit. It's a little too chaotic. I'm not going to cover up all the bits like these little hearts and stuff that are there. My hand wants to caress this today. It just wants, yeah, what I'm doing right now, this is the motion that my hand wants to do. I may bring in a brush at some point for different texture. We'll see once I get in there. But that's what's calling to me today. I also want some motion in here. And maybe some lines. So as I'm working on a piece, what I'm looking for is contrast. Do I have light against dark, and is that interesting? Are the colors popping next to each other, and is that interesting? Do I have soft edges and hard edges? And is that interesting? Do I have round circular shapes or curved edges and straight edges? And I'm missing the straight right now. And there's a part of me that wants to kind of connect some of this. So I might do that first. And then, you know, that can be an underlayer there that's just sort of suggesting that that's there. So do I have, you know, quiet spaces and busy spaces? All of these different contrasts are what I'm asking myself, these questions as I go along. And yeah, so there's a couple places here where I might do some glazing, but I want to do this layer in the background, and then I might turn my attention to some of these shapes, decide if I want to keep that one or not, and go from there. So that's the thought process. Day 8, I've got my palette mixed up here with a neutrally pinky color, which is titanium white, a tiny drop of the cobalt turquoise, a drop of Titan buff, a drop of, it's the kitchen sink really, a drop of yellow, a drop of quin magenta, a drop of the pyrrole red, kind of mixed together with some white fluid acrylic and some white heavy body to give me a little bit of texture, but not quite as much as the heavy gel. And hopefully that's enough, but I think I want to use my fingers today for the most part and just kind of see where we get to. So let me spin this back around for my perspective so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go set the timer. I'll grab a paper towel. No, I've got paper towel here. And I will be right back. Today might be another day where I don't do a lot of talking. So if that's the case, I may put in some music for you all. Because today just wants to be about talking to this piece, I think. There's also a softness in here with using my fingers that I was missing with that palette knife. I love the texture, certainly, that it gives me, but again, going back to that contrast, I want the softness too. There's a real kind of loving, gentleness that I want this piece to experience as I'm working on it. It's almost like kind of comforting a child is what this feels like. You know, like yesterday it was chaotic and that was a little too painful. And so today it's calming it down. It's going to be okay. Even when it feels crazy, even when it feels out of control. I'm reminded of a quote. I did an art journal page on this many years ago, and I don't remember who did the quote originally, but it's "the only way out is through," and that's kind of what's coming to me as I do this. I'm going to turn it around here. I'm going to angle it up a little bit as well. I apologize if that is a little bit difficult to see for you, but I need to see in the light what this motion is looking like here. Oh, it's kind of interesting. That made a square right there. I'm not mad at that. And this retains some peaks, but not a lot. So not a lot of this motion is really, it's very subtle. It's very subtle, but I have an idea for some glazing that I can do a little bit later that will help fill in some of the nooks and crannies. I did that on one of those, the end of one of the days, I don't remember. I think the long video where I put in, I did some glazing on one of the clean off pages. Yeah, sorry, enamored, just looking, seeing if there's anything obvious that I want to change. I don't think so. Let's see if I hate this or not. I don't hate that. Just felt like it needed some motion. Oh my God, you guys, look at this. It's a spiral. It's a freaking spiral. Let me turn the timer off and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. So if we start here and we move around, it's a spiral. Beep. Ending here. Wow. Okay. I freaking love that. So spirals, why do I care that it's a spiral? Spirals I use a lot in everything I do, really. There is I don't even know what it is. Is it a premise? Is it a concept? Is it an algorithm called the Fibonacci, which is a mathematical sequence that exists in nature. And it talks about relationship and proportion and how that changes. And it's essentially a spiral. And I use it as a metaphor when I talk about the way we evolve through life, the way we evolve our thinking, the way we evolve ourselves. And it's not linear. It goes from 0 to 1 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 8. And it just keeps going. So you take, the addition of the two numbers before to get the subsequent number. So you jump as you go, and it's not exponential. It's not powers of 10. So it's really interesting. So yeah, I'm not taking any of these circles out. It's a freaking spiral. So we'll see. This shape and this shape, they're almost like, I almost wish this was a little bit lower. I may need to make this a little bit higher I like that it's off the edge, but I may need to bring it up a little bit. It's a little, see how this line is just a little too straight, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm done for the day, obviously, 5 minutes. So evolution, it's going, it's moving. That's really cool. And if I turn it back this way, which was the orientation that I thought I liked it in which case we still end up here. I like that better, actually, although these are still kind of in that line, but I wasn't minding this orientation either. That's a neat thing about squares. You can turn them any way you like, but okay, so it's evolving. I like it softened up a little bit more, which makes me happy. I've still got some stuff peeking through, which makes me happy. Refined these shapes just a little bit, which is good. That makes me happy. Yeah, the spiral thing, that's freaking cool. That makes me happy. When I talk about being an intuitive painter, this is what I mean, right? It's like how the hearts show up. It's just, there's a message there that wants to come through. And however I am called without my brain to move my hand is how I'm communicating that message. Like my husband and I were talking yesterday about my art, and I don't believe anybody's art can be replicated, in the sense that once you create a piece, it's always unique. Even if you tried to do it again, you wouldn't be able to replicate it exactly. And what he was saying was, that's very true in my work, especially when, a lot of these motions are just, they just happen. So like if I tried to replicate something like this, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't have the same energy. It just wouldn't be the same. So yeah, that's the beauty of it. Even if I use the same intention on a new piece, it would be different, but that's great. That's why it's art. So I think what I might do, I might use some of this to, again, go over the sides here. Never want to waste paint. I've got anything left over, I'll put on that. I need to get a new cleanup piece. And yeah, today's day 8. Thank you all for being here. I hope you are enjoying the process. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you're seeing. If you have any insights from what we're doing, things that might apply to your world, whether you're an artist or not, we're all artists in our own way. Our medium just might be a little bit different, and that's cool. So yeah, I'd love to hear from you. I hope you have a great rest of the day. We're supposed to get a big old giant snowstorm tonight and into tomorrow. So if for some reason we lose power or I'm not able to film, day 9 might come at you a little bit later, but that is just is what it is. Okay, there we go. See you next time.